that you can go out and try a bunch of different things. In your 20s, that's what I think you should be doing until you settle on something that really resonates with you, that you think is perfect for you. It just fits, like and you'll know it in your gut when you find that thing. But you might have to take some risks in order to figure that out.
Hey mate, I'm Coach Mitch and welcome to the Unbreakable Man podcast. It's my goal to help you achieve excellent results in the area of your health and physical fitness, your career or business, your relationships, and in your own personal passions. This is going to be your one-stop shop if you are the kind of man who wants to achieve his fullest potential in life. And the only way to do that is by becoming unbreakable.
Hey brother, and welcome to this week's episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. It's really good to have you listening in. Now, today's episode was inspired by a young man that came and had a chat with me last week whilst I was training at Snap Fitness in Parkwood. Shout out to Lewis if you're watching this, mate. And he came up to me and he said that, he'd seen what I'm doing with Unbreakable Man and he really liked the messaging behind it and the whole purpose of it. And we started speaking a little bit about where he was in his life and where he was trying to get to. And I really enjoyed that conversation. In fact, I wish that there were more young dudes thinking like Lewis was, planning for the future, wanting to become a certain kind of person, wanting to build a certain kind of life for himself. And, he mentioned how, he really wanted to be a father at some point in the future. And he was trying to make sure that he didn't just have the finances in place to be able to provide for a family in the future, but also that he was becoming the kind of man that he needed to be to provide the experience that he wanted to provide for his future family. And there's not a lot of young fellas that are thinking like that. I think we're all very much focused in the moment and focused on ourselves, which is not necessarily a bad thing, at the end of the day, especially what I talk about. It's about, working on yourself, developing yourself. However, I think the most meaningful long-term outcome of developing yourself is that now you become a person who's so strong, who's so capable that you're able to give back. You're able to become a great role model for your family. You're able to raise your kids to be strong, independent, confident, capable human beings themselves, and then they go on to do that for their children. I think passing on that information and passing on those attitudes and beliefs and values is the most meaningful part of the whole process of personal development. Like, you do it for you, but then the thing that really feels good is seeing other people make those same difficult decisions in their lives to become better people themselves. And if you can do that for your kids, it's the best thing. So, I really would love to see more young dudes thinking that way, thinking about their future, thinking about being a great father, thinking about being a great role model. It really bums me out to hear how a lot of young people don't have any aspirations of having kids one day. Don't have any aspirations of building a new, strong, competent, confident generation and going through the really meaningful process of raising children. I really think that alone is a massive part of our development as people. So I really liked where Lewis's head was at when he came and spoke to me, and it gave me the idea for this episode, which is 5 tips for a young man. So 5 things that I believe that every young man should be aware of if they want to go on to do something genuinely meaningful in their lives. If you want to be a great father, if you want to be a great role model, a great partner, if you want to have a great life for yourself, then these are things that you can start doing as a young man to get the best head start. Now, in saying that, if you're watching this right now and perhaps you wouldn't consider yourself a young man, maybe you're in your 30s or 40s, then a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this episode is still absolutely relevant for a man in any stage of his life. But for the young bloke, the late teens and in the 20s, if you're watching this right now, then that is absolutely awesome, because you are, before you've really committed to maybe a particular person in your life, or you've committed to having children, you're starting to open yourself up to this information and this way of thinking and some of the things that you can do to set yourself up as well as possible for those future scenarios, or even just building the belief and the hope in yourself that you can have that one day, that you can have an amazing relationship with a beautiful woman, that you can have, beautiful, confident, prosperous children, all because of who you are and what you're able to bring to the table. So if you're a young guy watching this, this is awesome. I'm so happy that you are doing that. And if you wouldn't consider yourself a younger guy, but if you're in your 30s, you're still pretty young, then this is still really good stuff for you. And this is still stuff that you can implement. So the first tip that I have for young men is have a vision. Have an idea of exactly how you would like your life to look. If you're in your 20s now, think about, when I'm 40, what would be really meaningful for me to do, have, be at that point? What is the vision that I would like to step into 20 years from now if I'm a 20-year-old guy? What would I be doing family-wise? Would I have a wife and would I have kids? How would I be parenting those kids? What kind of a man would I be, obviously, to make sure that that's possible? Professionally, how would I be contributing to society? What role would I be playing? How would I like to have an impact? Consider those things. Have that vision in place. And I know that that's a really difficult question to answer, and I'll probably do a follow-up episode in the near future around how to answer that question, maybe a few sub-questions that you could go through to get a bit more clarity on that. Because I remember when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I could sit down and have a crack at goal writing, but, I certainly wouldn't be as good at it then as I am now. So it's kind of a skill at the same time. When you start to work on your vision, know that that vision is an ongoing process, and you need to keep coming back to it and keep updating it as you learn more about yourself and about life. But have that vision, because the sooner you start on this path, the quicker you will get there and the better it will be when you start to hit those milestones. The path never really finishes until the day you die. However, the further along that path you are going to get if you start sooner, and the more you're going to get out of that process. I've met many, many men who are in their 40s and sometimes even in their 50s who are still lost in life, who have never actually sat down and figured out, where do I want to go? Instead, they've just been pushed around by society and by the people around them to take certain avenues without even considering themselves, do I really want to go this way? Is this really for me? So if you're a young bloke, this is the best time in your life to really sit down and think about, how would I like things to be if I could have them the way that would be most meaningful to me? Not what I necessarily want, not what would be the most exciting necessarily, but what would be most meaningful. What would matter to me the most? What would make me feel most satisfied and content with the life that I built for myself? The sooner you get clear on that, the more time you have to put towards it. And look, think about this too, lads. If you're a young guy, if you're watching this, there's chances you don't have kids right now. So if you're 20 and you, let's say, aren't going to have kids till you're 30, you have way more time over that 10-year span to start to build yourself and get really clear on what it is that you want than you will if you're a bloke who's 30 and just had kids. Between 30 and 40, that 10-year span, whilst it's still 10 years, there's a lot less time in that 10 years for you to put into this project of your life. If you're a young bloke with very few responsibilities, now is the time. Do not wait. Don't waste your 20s pissing it away down at the pub or partying or doing stupid shit. This is your opportunity to set yourself up for the rest of your life. And you've really got a great window right now. If you're a little bit further down the track, that's totally fine. You still have this opportunity. It's just a bit more difficult. So if you're a young bloke and you have this chance now, take it now. Create that vision for yourself. Don't go blindly. Get as clear as you can right now with where you want to go. Now, tip number 2, build your value. This is super important for men. If you're a woman, I think that you're born with value. You are born with the ability to bring new life into the world, which is the most important thing that any human can do. I really do think that having children and having a new generation, raising kids, going through that whole process, having that life journey, it's not for everyone, for sure, but I think for most people, if we're really honest with ourselves, and I think we would find that that's what we'd like to do. We want to see that. We want to see our family grow. We don't want to be 70 with nobody to hang out with or talk to, or without the ability to sit down with our entire family at Christmas or family gatherings and see all the people that you had a hand in bringing into the world, and see the life and the happiness and the joy on those people's faces. So, I think that that's a really important part of our lives. And I think that, women are born with the ability to bring that value to the world, which is absolutely sensational. But for men, I think that we have to create our value. Our value is something that we must create ourselves. And have a think about it this way, lads. Think about men that check out of society. Think about men that don't try, men that don't put in any work. Where do those men end up? They end up on the streets, all right? They end up homeless because they've checked out. They've stopped trying to create their own value. They stopped trying to become someone who can provide or give something important to the world. That's a very male issue, because our value needs to be created. It's not something we're born with. We have to become something. So building your value is absolutely crucial. And if you're a young guy, once again, the earlier you start in this process, the more valuable you become. And the earlier you start, the quicker you start to be able to experience the benefits of being a really valuable person. And what do I mean by valuable? It's probably a good idea for me to define that. Well, look, I think that aside from the just basic fundamental level of value that each of us has as a human being, what we can layer on top of that is what we are able to give. It's what we're able to produce. If you become the kind of person who's so good that he can not only take care of himself, but he can also provide an amazing life for people around him and provide fantastic solutions for people around him, you are a more valuable person. Now, that could be something as simple as just making a lot of money. It sounds very superficial, but that is one way of being more valuable. Another way of being more valuable is being an excellent role model, being fit, strong, confident, competent, having an attitude that helps other people grow and improve as well. And just being able to make things happen, having influence makes you a more valuable person, because you have the ability to produce a greater outcome for more people. So if you can combine all three of those things, financially you're doing well, you have, you as a human being, you've worked on yourself a lot, you've got a strong mind, you've got a strong will, and you also have the ability to influence other people to take action. If you are doing well in those three areas, you're a very valuable person. And that allows you options in your life. It allows you the ability to create things the way that you think is the best. So build your value, gents, and men that don't build their value, at all, those are the guys that are losing in life. Those are the guys that are still living with their parents in their 40s and 30s, the dudes that never started that process of creating themselves and becoming something, and the dudes that eventually end up on the streets or in a home somewhere. And no offense to those guys, I'm just saying, if you don't want that, which I'm certain you don't, then build your value, gentlemen. And even if you're not a young guy, you've already got a partner, you've already got kids, there's never a time in your life where this isn't going to benefit you, becoming a more valuable human. And once again, like I said, there's a general level of value that everyone has as human beings, a general level of respect that goes towards you. However, there's absolutely something that you can do on top of that to make you a better producer, a better provider for the other people in your life. So build your value, gentlemen. Become really good at the thing that you do. Don't half-ass it, and become a really good person. Become as effective and as confident and as competent as you can be. Now, tip number 3 for young guys. This is going to, of the 5 tips, this is probably the one that is most relevant to young guys versus older dudes. And that third tip is take risks. If you are a young guy in your late teens or early 20s, maybe you are still living with the folks, which is perfectly reasonable. Now is the best time in your life for you to take a risk. Now is the best time in your life for you to go all in on yourself. You have very few responsibilities. Maybe you have to pay a few bills. Maybe you're paying rent somewhere, but you most likely don't have children. You most likely don't have, a particularly high-end career right now where you have to sort of toe the line in order to maintain that spot. Now is the time, gents, because the cost of failure is much cheaper for you if you're a young dude. Like, you can go out and try a bunch of different things. In your 20s, that's what I think you should be doing until you settle on something that really resonates with you, that you think is perfect for you. It just fits, and you'll know it in your gut when you find that thing. But you might have to take some risks in order to figure that out. And here's what I mean by taking a risk. I mean, if you've just got out of school, or maybe you just finished a degree and you're feeling a bit lost, go and travel. Go and get a working visa and go to Europe for the next year and just try things. Go and do things, meet people, see some places, experience life, and see what feedback you get from doing something like that. Put yourself out there because you have nothing to lose. Like, literally in your life right now, going back to what I said before about building your value, if you're a young man, you haven't had much of life experience, you haven't built or created much, or you haven't really worked on yourself much, then don't take this the wrong way, but you'll lower down on the value tree, which is not a bad thing, just because you're young. But what's great about it is you don't have much value to lose. You don't have much, like I said, the cost of failure is much cheaper for you than it would be for an older guy who's got kids and a family and a career and all that sort of stuff. You have this opportunity now to go and try shit. Try as much as possible. Put yourself out there. Learn to take care of yourself in a whole bunch of different situations. It makes you a stronger person. So take those risks. Go on that working visa on the other side of the planet and see what happens. See where you can find yourself. Go and try this course and that course. Go and try your hand in a bunch of different professions and see what you're really good at and see what really feels good to you. Take those risks. Don't have to commit to any one thing right now unless you see that thing as something you can see yourself doing for potentially the next 20, 30, 40 years. If you don't feel like that about what you're doing right now, then that means that there's some more experience out there for you to have that you need to tap into. So take risks. And if you're an older guy, maybe you have got those responsibilities. You've got a mortgage to pay. You've got kids. You've got a career that, could potentially be affected by certain actions. Obviously, you've got to do the pros and cons and take more mitigated risks on making some changes in your life. But you should still don't be afraid to take a risk. Once you've kind of done a little bit of research and you've sort of done your best case, worst case scenario, if you think the worst case is not that bad, then put yourself out there as well. Because once again, the best time to start is now. The best time to start is as early as you can start. It's about having time in the game. That's the biggest thing. So take those risks, gents, especially if you're a younger guy. Now, number 4 in here, be wary of distractions. So many young dudes right now, I feel, are stuck in the same place, stuck in kind of dead-end jobs or stuck at home with mum and dad. And so many of those young dudes are being sedated by modern society. Video games. Like, if you spend hours every single day playing video games, that's hours every single day that you could be putting into figuring out what it is you want out of your life and then taking action on it. And, if you're listening to this and you like video games, fair enough. I'm not saying it's bad for you. I'm just saying there's a dude out there who could be doing what you're doing right now, but instead he's working on himself, and he's the one who's going to get the life that you could have. But you're not going to get it because you're not able to compete with that person because you're sitting down playing video games. You're sitting down, to me, it would be like a waste of time. Obviously, for you, you're enjoying that process. There's nothing wrong with that. Play some video games every now and again, but don't let it cost you your future. Don't let it cost you having what you truly want out of your life, which is not to be, a level 50 elf. What I'm assuming you probably want out of your life is to be a happy, confident, competent person, to hopefully be a great role model, father, and husband one day, and to make a difference, to have some life experiences that you can really look back on and feel really satisfied with and really excited about, and some stories to tell other people to help them make some positive moves in their life too. So, I think a lot of young men are being sedated in society right now, sedated by video games and TV and social media and porn and drugs and alcohol and all this crap. And all that's doing is taking your focus away from the thing that, if you're watching this, the thing that you probably actually want, the thing that would be most meaningful for you. And all I'm saying is be wary of those things, guys. I'm not saying don't engage in them maybe every now and again if you feel you really have to. It would be better if you didn't, but every now and again is not too bad. But if it's every day, then what you do every single day that's how your life is going to be characterized. It's going to reflect in your life and in your outcomes and in the way that you feel, what you do every single day. So if you look at your day right now and ask yourself, is this a successful, confident, competent man's day? If the answer is no, then you've got to make some changes if you want to be a successful, confident, competent man. And I think that deep down, if you could have that, if you felt like you could have that, you probably would want that. But right now, maybe you don't feel like you can have it, so you just go, fuck it, I'm going to play video games. And look, I totally appreciate it. And it's not easy to start to think that way. The best thing I could say for you is get yourself around some really good dudes. Get yourself around some people that set the example for you that you would like to create in your own life. And that could probably be a sixth tip on here is environment. Surround yourself with dudes that are where you want to be. That would be an absolutely amazing thing to do, which is the reason why it would be amazing to have some more younger guys in Unbreakable Man, because I'd love to see more younger dudes setting themselves up for success in life, and reaping those benefits so that they're not making the same mistakes that so many older guys are making before them. We can learn from those mistakes. Now, the last tip on here, and there's a reason why this is the last tip as well, because everything else has to be done before you can even consider this last tip. And the last tip is be picky with the women that you have in your life. Be picky with the women that you bring into your life. And the reason why it's the last tip and why it has to be the last tip is because you have to have everything else first before you can be picky. Here's the reason why I said this. And look, this is relevant for everyone. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. You should absolutely be selective with who you choose as your intimate partner. Because that person's going to have a huge influence on your life, on the things that you get to do, on the experiences that you get to have, on how you feel on a day-to-day basis, because they are such a huge part of your life. So everyone needs to do this. However, specifically, I want to make men aware of this, because as men, we're typically less picky, right? Like women are much more selective. They want the best guy. But as men, we're not that selective. There's a lot of dudes out there. If you are struggling to get a girlfriend or struggling to even talk with women, then the first woman that gives you any attention is, you're just gonna go like, yeah, cool. I guess I'm with you then. But that person may not be the best for you. That person might actually take you away from the things that you're trying to produce in your life. They actually might be a negative influence on your life, because you haven't actually sat down and thought, is this person in line with where I'm trying to go? Do they sort of see the same path for themselves? And if not, then you're really taking a huge, potentially negative risk here by aligning yourself with this person because they're not aligned with where you're trying to get to in your life. So be selective with women. But the reason why, again, I put this right at the bottom, is because you can't be picky until you become a man with options, right? And that means a guy who has a vision for his life and who is consistently taking action on it, a guy who has value, is confident, competent, moving towards success if he isn't already successful, a dude who has the courage and the confidence to take risks, and the dude who has removed distractions and addictions from his life. Like if you have those four things going for you, then you're going to have the ability to be a lot more selective with the women that you have in your life, because more women are going to be attracted to you. If you have options, then you get to pick. the one that works best for you. If you aren't a man with options, then you pretty much get what you're given. And that's not a great recipe for success. So there's a lot of men that I know who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who made the mistake of not being really selective with the woman that they choose to bring into their life. And either they just didn't see eye to eye and they didn't realize it, or in some cases, they're just not the kind of guy that they need to be in that scenario. Or in some cases, the woman that they picked was just not a very nice person and just genuinely wasn't helping the vision that they were trying to create for themselves. And a lot of guys fall into that trap. So what I'm saying for you as a young man, go through this process of working on yourself, become a man of value and who has options in his life. And then when you're ready and you know where you're trying to get to in your life, decide or ask yourself the question, what kind of a woman do I need to find and make myself worthy of in order to create this vision of my life? What would be the perfect attributes in the woman that's going to help me get there? And once you're clear on those things, now you know what you're looking for, and then as a man with value who has options, you go on a few dates, you start talking to some people and you can tell straight away, is this person going to help me get to where I'm trying to get to? Is this person going to, do we share some really important values? Are they going to see eye to eye on the things that are really important to me? And that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just, you're looking for someone who's compatible with yourself and where it is you're trying to get to. And it's really important that you do find that before you make a commitment. And a lot of young dudes are making that mistake right now, and I want that to not be the case. But that also goes for any gents who are in their 30s, 40s, or even 50s. Maybe you're a single divorced fella in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, and you're getting back out there again for the first time in God knows how long. And for you, the same thing still applies. You don't want to make decisions that are going to hurt you 10, 20 years down the track or hurt you consistently over the next 10, 20 years. So try to align yourself with people that match up with where you're trying to go in your life. So those are my 5 tips for the young man. So if you're a young bloke, it'd be amazing if you start putting those 5 tips in place. I've written them down below in the comments section so you can review them and maybe write them down yourself and ask yourself if you are doing those 5 things currently in your life, and perhaps are there any that you could improve on? And yeah, even if you're not a younger dude, same thing still applies. You still want to become the most confident, competent, and successful guy that you can be if you really want to have a great experience of life. And last but not least, if you are a young guy, then this specifically goes out to you because I enjoy the process of helping younger dudes set themselves up as much as I enjoy the process of helping guys who are in 30s, 40s, and 50s start to fix some of the things in their life. I'd love to see younger guys set themselves up so well right now that they aren't making those mistakes later on. And so with that said, if you are a younger bloke watching this right now, then I highly encourage you to come and join Unbreakable Man. At least come and check it out. Click me a message. You can email me at mitch@unbreakableman.com.au and talk to me about where it is you're trying to get to in your life if you do have a vision, but you're not sure how to get there, because I'd love to see you succeed. If I had me as I am now, back when I was 18 to 20, then I would be so much further along today than I currently am. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with where I'm at. And it's always easy to say that in hindsight. But the point is, if you want to make a ton of progress in your 20s, then start now and get around people that can help you get there. So if that's you, you're a young guy, you want to make a difference in your life and you want to set yourself up really strongly, then I'd love to have you on the Unbreakable Man team and help to start teaching you some of this stuff so you can start taking action on it. You can get in touch with me at mitch@unbreakableman.com.au. All right, with that said, have an amazing rest of your day, my friend, and I can't wait to speak to you again on the next episode. Cheers.
Hey mate, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you did, it would be absolutely fantastic if you could leave us a 5-star review, because that's going to help us get our message in front of more men who need to hear it. Now, if you have some feedback for me, I'd love to hear that too. Comment down below. And if you just need some mini doses of Unbreakable Man motivation throughout your week, then you can follow us across all social platforms. On Facebook, it's Unbreakable Man Challenge. On Instagram, it's Unbreakable Man_challenge. And on TikTok and YouTube, it's just Unbreakable Man. Your support would be absolutely invaluable. Now, last but not least, do not forget, men aren't born, they're built.